right, what a season it's been. We're glad to see you back in the seat of our cars in Silverstone. Just like previous times, we'll have you go through several practice programs to gather data. This data will also help us configure the car during the winter break for next season. It's great to officially meet you as your mechanic for FP1. Let's make the most of this session and get out on track. I'm sure Bruno will have some updates for you by the end of the session. Let's get out there.
There'll be a lack of rubber out on track, so take it easy for the first couple of laps.
You know the drill. White line on pit exit, take 1 or 2 warm-up laps while watching for other cars, then go for some good runs. We have you on the hard tires for a possible race strategy for us this weekend. Let us know if anything doesn't feel right with the car.
All right, Johnson, that was some good driving you put out on track. The data that the team has gathered from your runs will do us perfect for next season. And like we talked about before the race weekend, I can't wait to see you in that Alpine next season alongside Pierre Gasly. Have a great rest of your weekend for F2, and we will sit down sometime in the off-season and sign that contract.
All right, so here we are for the final race weekend of our F2 season. We're gonna go ahead and save the driver rating till next season as we're coming across the line for the first time here. 138.227, good enough for P6 to start out. Moving on to our second run here, coming around the final few corners. We're up about 2/10 coming into the corner, gaining as much as we can. We could have gotten on the power a little bit sooner. That's gonna be good enough for P10 for the sprint race and the feature race.
With qualifying complete, all that remains is the main event. We'll be live and uninterrupted for the feature race tomorrow, so make sure you join us there. So it's all about speed in today's sprint race then. Not very many laps and no chance to get ahead on strategy. Who here today has the raw skill to take them to the top? Yas Marina Circuit is a 3.2-mile racetrack built on the man-made Yas Island. In addition to the 16 corners, it features 2 very long straights. Now these will be the driver's main overtaking chances today into turn 5 and turn 7. In the commentary box, I'm Alex Shakes. Alex Brundle is alongside me. And now, we've had sprints for years in Formula 2, but with a shorter race, how does that change your driving style?
You go for a little more, a little earlier, using a bit more of that harder compound of the 2 tyres available per weekend in Formula 2 to try to steal a march. And equally, if you have a bit of a bump, not so much of an issue. You're going to have another go tomorrow.
It sounds like you've had an eventful weekend. With the last 2 races of the season ahead, stay focused and give it your all. You've got this. Finish strong and end the season on a high note.
And for the final time this season for F2, we're going to be jumping right into the sprint race. 5 red lights are off, and we're off to a good start. Porcher is on the inside, but he's not going to be close enough. I don't know what the timing was doing there. He was 1.4, I believe that was off the start or so. But he's going to have the inside corner for turn 1. We're going to drop back down to P2. And I believe Cordeal is fighting Miney there for P12 as we're coming through Sector 1 for the first of the 2 main back straights. Really strong tow and really strong DRS here in Abu Dhabi as we're coming around the final corner. A couple 2x2s there as we're about 3/10 or so, 3.5 tenths back behind Porcher. Gonna see if we can make a move here into this first chicane, or the only chicane in the track really, as we're gonna still hold on behind him. Fittipaldi close behind. We stick a little bit of curb there on the right-hander, and gonna see if we can make a move here out of the end of this DRS zone for that long left-hander, but he's already ahead about half a second or so. So he's slowly gaining some time against us here as we're trying to take this corner as best as possible, go wide, put the power down. Fittipaldi still holding on behind us about 3/10 as the gap is now just under 7/10 behind Porcher as we're coming through, going wide a little bit, and that's going to really jeopardize our time there. You saw we jumped down to 4/10, but it's now 8/10 as we're coming around the final few corners here on this first lap of the sprint race. Everybody on the mediums, if you guys saw at the start of the race, as that was an okay first lap. 7/10 is the gap, and we have a fight ahead of us for this sprint race here in Abu Dhabi. The warmer, or the cooler weather will help out the medium tires. But moving on to lap 3, is DRS is active on this lap, and we're finally able to try to make a move on Porcher. As we're coming around the final corner, we're trying to look for a good exit, but we don't have a good, decent exit yet. So we're able to utilize the tow and the DRS here on Porcher. We're going to be moving on the inside of the corner, and we're going to have plenty of space to get ahead of him, so we're not side by side coming in through this chicane. So that's going to be an easy move for P1, but Porcher is going to have DRS on this second half of this back section of the track, so we're going to be looking to defend. And as we're coming up to the left-hander, he's going to be moving to the outside, and we're going to be holding that inside line. And I thought about pushing him out wide, but not really. So, but Porcher does end up backing out on the outside line, so maybe the outside line isn't an effective move during that turn, especially coming off of DRS. Benavida is already hitting a DNF for the end of the season here in the sprint race, so they're going to be out short for the MP team, as we're finding some decent pace here. 6/10 is the gap here on lap 4. Porcher is going to have another attempt here, and another 2 attempts if we're able to keep him behind on this straight, but I don't think we will. Already a quarter of the way, or a third of the way through this race, as we're about halfway through lap 4 now, and Porcher is going to make a move on the inside as we did previously. We're going to hold on. He's going to cover us off. So we're going to have that attempt here on the second DRS zone. And coming out of that corner really well, actually. And putting the power down. So you can see Hauger and Maloney fighting there back and back. Side by side. Cordial, our teammate, still sitting back at P13. We're going to make the move on the outside. See if we can make a move that Porcher wasn't able to. And it just seems like the outside lane for that turn is not the way to go, so we'll have to try to make a move on the inside if we're in second place the next time around. So lap 4, almost the end of lap 4, and Porcher and I have been going back and forth already in those DRS zones to try to take up the win, but it feels like it's going to be like that the entire time, because lap 5, coming down to this straight, we have so much momentum. We're going to be side by side into this chicane. You can see Porcher turning into us, and I'm not sure if he was intentionally doing that, but we're going to go ahead and capitalize on that, as well as try to defend here. And knowing the last 2 laps weren't that great, we're going to go ahead and defend on the inside. And poor Chair has no room to try to make a move on us, so we're going to be able to hold him off for now here as we're running up the end of lap 5. And that's Fittipaldi for short. Iwasanova, like Behrman, Martin, Vesti, and Darula to round out the rest of the top 10, as pretty much everybody's going back and forth on the back half of this track. And I'm trying to take care of these tires as much as we can, going out a little bit wider, getting a warning for those track limits. So lap 6 now, poor Chair is coming out of the corner with another attempt. 6/10 is the gap, so it's basically going to be a rinse and repeat this whole time. As Fittipaldi still sitting in P3, DRS open, and we're trying to push as much as possible, hoping that we don't have another side-by-side situation. And we do. We end up breaking late, and we have the outside of that first corner, inside of this next corner, and it's basically rinse and repeat. And it's going to be like this for the entirety of this race. I feel like we're going to be holding that inside line again against poor Chair. 3/10 is the gap. He has DRS. He's closing in on us. And that's Fittipaldi trying to make a move on us as well. Coming in behind poor Chair, but no. Kind of covering him off. And poor Chair and Fittipaldi are side by side. So, we're hoping right here we can try to make a gap. You can see poor Chair still holds on to P2 against Fittipaldi. As it's basically rinse and repeat. If you guys have raced this track, you know what I'm talking about. You've dealt with it yourself. But it's going to go all the way down to the final lap here in the sprint race, as Fittipaldi is still there in P3 and poor Chair in P2 coming in for another attempt. We have 2 DRS zones to defend this P1 finish in hopes to claim that Constructors Championship. We see poor Chair moving on the inside, and Fittipaldi maybe was hoping for a move there on the outside, but no, we're going to be side by side all the way through this chicane, taking a lot of curve there, more than I liked, and we're actually somewhat side by side with him before the DRS zone, which is going to make an even larger margin if we get ahead of him. But this time we're forced to take the outside line, and I'm hoping we can hold it. Poor Chair is on the inside. We have to give him that room, and we're going to be holding on to P1. So it's going to be a P1 finish for the sprint race, as we're finally coming around these last few corners, and we're feeling really good about this. So that's going to be a P1 finish, and we are hoping that will be a good fight as we come into the feature race. So coming around the final corner, that's P1 for us, more points on the board, and it's continuing to be a good weekend.
So another fantastic victory for Virtuosi.
Well, sprint races are basic, aren't they? And that's why we like them. Set them all going and let them have at it. And they really showed the racecraft and pace that you need to win them.
And here are our podium drivers today after that excellent race. They've excelled here as they so often do, and it's a well-deserved victory. Virtuosi then are on top today. Well, what a year it has been. What a story we have seen. I've been Alex Jakes on the microphone. Thanks to the whole team here. We'll see you next year when Formula 2 returns. It's race day for our young drivers here in the United Arab Emirates, where the Yas Marina circuit is about to play host to the Abu Dhabi Formula 2 race. Let's get started. So of the Yas Marina circuit offers 16 corners and a lap distance of around 3.2 miles. There are a few opportunities to pass with long straights and DRS zones in 2 places, turns 5 and 7. Plenty of close racing then, plenty of speed and plenty of excitement for the fans, no doubt. Here are the starting positions for today's race. A fantastic effort from Jan Daruvali yesterday puts him on pole position, and it's Frederick Vesti in P2. Looking down the rest of the grid, we have Martins, Behrman, Clermont Novalak, and Verschoor, Fittipaldi, Iwasa, Pourchaire, Johnson, Leclerc, Miney, Amory Cordial, Brad Benavides, Stanek, Crawford, Hauger, Isaac Hadjar, Maloney, Nissani, Boschon, and Juan Manuel Correa completes the grid. Now it's almost time to lights out, so let's get down to the track. It all comes down to this. I'm Alex Jakes, Alex Brundle is alongside me, and for the final time this season, we're about to go racing. Alex, you're looking to sign off in some style.
So are the drivers and teams. It's a really important race for everyone here, despite the fact it's the end of the year. They know that everything they do in this event is going to echo for months through the end of the season.
Just one more race to go, and you're so close to clinching the Constructors' Championship. Stay focused, keep ahead of the ARTs, and you'll secure the title.
The formation lap gets underway for this, the Formula 2 race, and every driver will be looking to settle in for the race ahead, making sure the car is ready for battle once the lights go out.
All right, there you have it, the final race strategies for the final race of the season here in F2. And you guys remember, we heard in practice we are moving on to F1 with Alpine. So we're hoping for a good race today and hoping to get up into the points enough to fight against Victor Martins and Theo Pourchaire for this Constructors Championship, because we are only 1 point separated between ART and Virtuosi. 5 red lights are off, and we're off to a good start against Pourchaire. Pourchaire not sure where he wants to go. We're going to be forcing him to the outside as we move on the inside of Iwasa, as we're really wide in the turn 1. Iwasa there on the inside. We push Pourchaire wide, so we get a warning for the contact with him, as feeling pretty good. P8 coming out of the first corner. First few corners, you can see a lot of people are side by side up there. Iwasa has the inside. He has better momentum out of that previous corner, so he's going to be leading into this first DRS straight. But we have a lot of tow going on here. Everybody's 2x2 as we cycle in behind Iwasa for P9, and we have a long race ahead of us, even though it's 17 laps. But we're going to have to deal with it and see what we can do. Our teammate Cordial up in P12, as we're going to take the advantage, or opportunity I would say, to go 2x2, but a lot of people, we're all going over the curb because we're 2x2, and looking to see if we can make a move on Iwasa here on this left-hander. He's trying to get away from us and not give us tow. As you could see, the sparks flying from the floorboard. Trying to make a move on the outside, and we actually do on Iwasa. We have the better momentum, and we're going to have the advantage coming into this next few corners. Fittipaldi ahead, fighting for Verschoor, because they're all single file. So it was me and Iwasa who were side by side coming through these last few corners, and then everybody decided to go single file for the start of the next lap. In a very intense first lap, we're still sitting at P8 because we were fighting Iwasa for majority of the lap, as we're looking to see what we can do in this rinse and repeat cycle that we had in the sprint race. But it's a lot overcast weather here in Abu Dhabi. So on the inside of Fittipaldi on lap 2, we're gonna have the momentum out of the corner. We pushed him wide, no warning for that, We're going to be side by side. You can see him there on the right side as he has the better momentum, so he has a lower wing setup on his car. Most likely because we have our car, the height set up for these curbs. And we're not the only ones to try to make a move on the inside, as we almost take some curb there. And we're up in the P7, halfway through, or majority of the way through lap 2. So we're pretty set for pace. And we just have to worry about getting up to Martins. He's up there in P3. And we have to get ahead of him in order to win this constructor standings. For sure, on lap 4, it was up in P6. We're going to make the same move that we did on Fittipaldi. And it's going to be effective. We're going to make a move, avoid taking as much curb as we can. And we're going to have Novalak up in P5 now, as we are looking to chase down Victor Martins. Like I said, that is our main goal. We need to get on the podium against Victor Martins, which is ideal because it's more points, in order to claim this Constructors Championship. But we have about 7 tenths now between myself and Novalak. Coming back down the hill, lap 6 now, just under halfway. Or, yeah, just under halfway. We lose the back end a little bit. For sure is going to take advantage of that on the inside. And we're going to be side by side, both of us with DRS actually, as we're fighting to catch up to P5, who's Novalak, who's now over a second away. The chicane is going to help us try to close that gap. And this fight is going to continue. We just have to worry about our pit stop strategy. And we decided that we're going to be able to, we're going to have to come in early here on this lap. Let's go to the commentators for the final race of the season here in F2.
The excitement is palpable as we reach the final race in F2. Everyone is on the edge of their seats, eager to see who will emerge victorious. Johnson is fiercely defending his championship lead against the strong competition from both ART drivers. It's going to be an intense showdown as we see Johnson trying to make positions up in order to put pressure on Victor Martins, who currently sits in 3rd place as they are fighting another driver for places.
ART is currently in a strong position. Martins securing P3 would be sufficient against Johnson, but they also need Pourchaire to finish in the points to increase their lead and secure the Constructors' Championship. It's surprising to see Johnson coming into the pits this early. No one else has pitted yet, so he might be aiming for a strong outlap to gain an advantage and come out ahead after the other pit stops are done. As we see Johnson coming out on the medium tyres, I believe he could potentially lose enough grip to jeopardize the final part of his race. This will depend on how well he manages those tyres, especially at the end of the DRS zones.
Well, while we wait to see when the rest of the drivers come in for their pit stops, let's check in with Will and Nat about what has come about this weekend in regards to next season in F1.
Thank you, Crofty. It has been the highlight of the weekend in the F2 paddock. This year's driver champion, Johnson, has reportedly set up a contract with Alpine for next year. We have seen how close he has been to the team lately after Silverstone's tyre testing. And we actually saw him come into the paddock with Bruno Famin, the Alpine team principal. We have learned that Famin has offered Johnson a 1-year contract with the team to get him into the world of F1 and see if they can utilise Johnson to get back up the places amongst the other F1 teams.
That does bring up a great point, because on the top end of the grid, Red Bull has had an incredible season. But when it comes to the rest of the teams, there still is a fight going on in the mid and backfield of the grid. Alpine's performance has declined in recent races, and they are hoping that Johnson can help them return to the midfield and consistently score points, as they have been accustomed to.
That is certainly something to look forward to next season in F1 as we have the next set of drivers coming in for their pit stops. Johnson back by 18 seconds behind Boschung in 21st. Is hoping to make up some progress against the first group of pit stops.
A lot of ground can be made up from an undercut. And where it will really matter is the second or third set of pit stops in this case, since Johnson went a lap earlier than anyone else. Another factor to take into play is that of traffic in the pits. Some teams may come in towards the front of the group, then could be caught up and have to wait for other drivers to pass in the pits, which could cost them positions.
We haven't seen much change from this set of stops, but Johnson has made his way up to 12th with his pace, but is still 17 seconds back from the leading group of cars. I wanted to talk a bit more about next season, and we have Ted Kravitz to share some more information about that with us.
The upcoming F1 season brings some intriguing changes. The FIA is introducing new regulations that might not significantly impact the teams. Notably, there will be adjustments to the DRS system with an increased opening angle. Additionally, changes to the aerodynamics and downforce of the cars are expected. Teams will face restrictions on wind tunnel time and pre-season testing, making it crucial to analyze and adapt their cars efficiently. This essentially means that there should be closer racing to prevent the same situation that teams have faced this year against Red Bull. The FIA is wanting teams to be able to keep the fight going rather than one team being so far ahead of everyone else. That is why teams aren't allowed to work on designing their cars 2 seasons out.
Well, Ted, that was a pretty good insight of what's to come on the technical side of F1 for next season, as we are watching what seems to be the final iteration of pit stops, as we eagerly wait to see if Johnson is able to come out in the front of the grid as we see our front runners coming into their pit boxes. The pit stops themselves are quick, but the length of the pit exit can impact your position, especially against an undercut. Now the F2 champion has taken the lead in this race, and we still have plenty of laps to go before the checkered flag is raised.
And that is right. We're going to be coming out in P1, Rivla and Behrman. So Martins is down to P4 because we're up in the P1, and that gap has been made accurate. About a 1 second gap between myself and Daruvla as we're on lap 9. So we're hoping to take care of these medium tires for the rest of the race and come away with a win for that Constructors Championship. Moving on to lap 10 now. That gap is now down to 3/10. You can see Daruvla trying to make a move, and there is contact. We hit the brakes. Daruvla hits the brakes a little bit too late, so that ruins their front wing, somewhere on the front wing. I'm not entirely sure. But I didn't feel it, and I'm not sure what was going on with Daruvla as we're about 7 laps to go here. Daruvla making a move on the outside, and we forcibly push him out of the way here on this left-hander. So we are fighting for this position, but unfortunately, an engine failure to finish out the rest of our F2 season. And it's going to be very unfortunate for us. We are not going to be able to claim that Constructors Championship, but we are moving on to Alpine next season.
The Indian driver will look up and see the checkered flag first. Jan Daruvula takes the win.
Well, credits are rolling on the season, and they can really build on that. A satisfying way to go into next year with full confidence.
And look at that, they're making their way out onto the podium now. Great race from the MP Motorsport team, and I'm very happy to see them up there on the top step of the podium. Well, what a year it has been. What a story we have seen. I've been Alex Jakes on the microphone. Thanks to the whole team here. We'll see you next year when Formula 2 returns.
All right, we have made it to the end of our F2 season here in F1 24, which means the next episode is going to be the preseason episode for F1. We're going to go over the mods and some other stuff for the season. Really looking forward to it, and I hope you guys enjoyed this season as much as I did working on it for you guys. And I'm hoping to get that video out by at least a few days. So we'll see you in the next episode.